Oh, yes.
Alright, welcome to another episode of the Extremely Low Budget Podcast. I am your co-host Alex for today, and the other co-host we have is Kyle, and that's it.
Yep. No one else wanted to be here, I guess.
Yeah, but today we're doing something a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're gonna do a year review of the new albums that came out this year. So we've got a few that are kind of our favorites and that stuck out to us and just ones that we wanted to talk about. So we're going to be doing, let's see, Beer Bongs and Bentleys by Post Malone, Pray for the Wicked, Panic at the Disco, Ballads 1, Joji, and then we'll have a little taste of an album just came out a couple days ago, but we'll talk about that later. So we should just go ahead and get started with Beer Bongs and Bentleys.
Yeah, perfect.
Unless you have anything else to say.
I do not.
Alright. It's a pretty bare bones podcast today, but that's okay. We're going to get right to the point.
Yeah, so I guess to preface this a little bit, I knew of Post Malone prior to this album, but I kind of refused to listen to him just because I'm not huge into like hip hop and stuff.
Right.
There's a couple artists that I really like. But I had seen Post Malone probably through like H3. And I was just like his physical appearance to me looked like he was probably going to be like a real hardcore like mumble rapper and
very off-putting.
Oh yeah, I was very against listening to him. And then pretty much everyone was like, "No, you gotta hear it. You gotta."
Well,
hear
yeah,
it.
and then like I think another thing was when I would like watch their podcast with him. I think that was the first time I like saw him and like what he looked like, and he was such a nice guy. It was like crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
But I remember I didn't really listen to it that much, and then Congratulations came on the radio, and I was like, That's actually pretty good. I wonder who does that. And I was like, oh, no way, that's Post Malone. I've heard that name before. And then I started listening to that album, but like way after everybody else did. And then Beer Bongs and Bentleys came out. But
yeah. Honestly, it may have been you that got me to listen to this album. Because I think you were telling me, you were like, you should just listen to this album. It's pretty solid. Along with a ton of other artists.
I know, I don't remember, I think you might have done Post Malone yourself, but I think when you were listening to that, I was like, if you like that, you should start listening to Childish Gambino.
Yes,
he's got
that sounds right.
Yeah. But,
yeah, so I think I started with this album. I really didn't know that this was like brand new at the time I was listening to it. I had no kind of bearing on any of this. So this was the first one I listened to, and then I listened to his other album. But man, I like latched onto this so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got... Well, and I remember when like Rockstar came out as a single, and what other singles did he release for this one? Oh, Candy Paint, technically.
Oh,
was
really?
on this one, yeah. Which, Candy Paint was one that, like, it was just kind of entertaining to me. It wasn't, like super good because it was written for Fast and Furious, right? And so I was just like, oh, this is just kind of like a funny song, whatever, for the film. But it actually it's pretty good considering. And then Psycho they released as a single, which is really good.
That's a great song.
Yeah. Which I mean we'll go into them a little bit more. And then Ball for Me it's pretty good. Better Now is also like a really good one. But
yes.
That's the thing with all these songs. They're all solid and they're all like they vary in different ways. So, do you want to go track by track or do you just want to like a little bit?
Let's for this just kind of talk about the standout songs on each album.
That's
I think.
fair. I might
because I don't have a lot to say about quite a few of these songs.
I mean, I think Paranoid's a stick-out one for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That one, I think on this album, there's probably about 4 or 5 of them that really stand out to me, where the whole album is great, and I can listen to it all the way through, you know, like multiple times in a row. But there's a few of them that kind of after I moved away from this album a little bit as more music was coming out, I like snagged those 5 and put them in a separate playlist so I could just listen to those ones.
Right.
And those are probably Paranoid, Better Now, Psycho, Stay, and for a while Rockstar was on there.
Yeah.
But I kind of burnt myself out on that one.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, and especially because Rockstar was out like way before the whole album was out. But I mean, like, yeah, right off the bat with Paranoid, it's a great song to start with. And like, I think the thing with Post Malone is like, he's not even really a rapper. He's just like a hip hop artist.
Yeah.
Because like, I remember somebody was asking me, they were like, is Post Malone a rapper? And I was like, yeah, he's totally a rapper. And then I was like, they were like, okay, find a song where he raps. And I was like going through songs, and I was like, holy shit, he like sings in all of these.
Yeah.
But he does like a little bit of like kind of like a rap style, which is like, that's my favorite part, is because I can listen to rap too. But I mean, it really like, I like it more when he does the hip hop like singing and stuff too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Paranoid's a great one for it because it's got a nice melody to it, and it's got a nice like flow to it. And I don't know, it's like, it's just kind of like a solid song to start off with. There's nothing too like crazy about it, but it's just like a nice song you can have on the background, or it comes on the radio, and like, yeah, I don't know.
It's definitely one of the like kind of go-to chill songs for me.
Yeah.
Where, you know, if I just kind of want to be mellow, that's kind of what I'll pop on. Actually, this whole album really, for the most part, I think is fairly, you know, kind of smooth.
It is, yeah. But then that's the thing, is he's got a couple songs on there that are kind of like a little hard,
they
you know? They're like party
more,
songs or whatever. But that's nice. Like, I always like that. I don't mind albums that have like the same style throughout the whole thing, but I like them even more when they'll have all kinds of different songs.
Yeah.
And we'll see that as like, I think, besides probably ballads, all the other albums that we're going to talk about do that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's just because ballads is pretty short, and it's literally called ballads.
Exactly,
so it's like,
yeah.
You know what you're getting into. But yeah, I mean, Paranoid for sure. Not a whole lot to say about it, but that's okay, because it's just solid. After that is Rockstar, which is definitely like a party tune, like a club tune. And that's okay, because it's pretty good. Like, if you want to feel like a gangster when you're driving down the street, you pop Rockstar on.
There you go. That's true.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the most popular songs on this album, especially because it came out as a single way before this album came out.
Over 1 billion plays on Spotify. Holy fuck.
1.3 billion plays on Spotify. Jesus. Whereas if we take like Paranoid has, come on, 180 million.
Wow.
So like, that just shows you.
I will say though, Paranoid for me is way better than.
Because the thing for me is like, if I want to listen to Rockstar, it's not usually something I'd listen to by myself. Like a lot of the like kind of club tunes I don't really listen to myself, but like if it comes on the radio, or for some reason it comes up on a playlist, I might listen to it. But if I'm listening to this album, I might skip it because I've heard it so much. But it might be fun, like if you're out with your friends and it comes on, you're like, I know Post Malone, and whatever. But yeah, and then right after that we have Over Now. Was Over Now one that stuck out to you?
It did. I think that, so like I said, when I was listening to this, after it kind of lost its novelty a little bit, because I'd listened to it, I don't know, 400 times in a row.
Sure.
I picked like those 5 songs and I put them in a playlist titled Summer Jams.
Right.
And so I had what was the one before this again? Rockstar?
Rockstar,
Yeah,
yeah.
I had Rockstar on it initially, but I think I swapped it for Over Now, because it's probably in my top 5 on this album, actually. It's probably my 5th favorite. Yeah. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's good. Again, one of the chill ones, and I like his singing in it.
Mm-hmm. So. That's what I wasn't expecting, was I didn't think I was going to like Post Malone's voice.
Mm-hmm.
He just seemed too kind of greasy to me. I don't know. Just when you look at him, that's just kind of what I would initially say. And I don't think he had this, like, all of his face tattoos at the point that I started listening to it.
I think he definitely had the barbed wire.
Yeah.
I think he's got, like, the Playboy bunny or something by his eye. I don't know. I don't remember. I haven't seen a picture.
You look at that, and it's completely different from what his music actually sounds like. He's got, like, a really, really nice voice.
You have to, like, admire just him, like, doing him and doing what he wants to do, and he's like, well, you know, I'm gonna express myself by tattooing myself all over. But
did you see his Hot Ones interview?
A while ago.
Yeah, they basically, like, they ask him, they're like, your style is, like, fucking crazy, dude. And he's like, oh, you know, you just gotta do you. He's like, back in elementary school and all that shit, I just dressed the way I wanted to dress, and I'm happier because of it, and I just like to do what makes me happy. And I was like, yeah, that's a fucking solid answer. I like it.
I always respect just, like, him kind of doing him, and if he ever says anything that's kind of dumb, I'm like, well, it's whatever. I know he doesn't mean any harm, because, like, seeing him in interviews and podcasts, like, he's just such a chill guy.
He is. He seems like a very genuine person.
Yeah.
Which is, especially for the genre of music he's lumped into.
I know. Yeah.
He's a standout.
But then he also has that side of him that just, like, parties. Like, he's always got a beer and a cigarette in his hand when he's doing podcasts and interviews. So, but just somehow at the same time, he's such a chill guy.
I feel like he avoids the kind of typical rap drama.
I
haven't seen really anything.
Which kind of again goes back to, like, him just doing himself.
Yeah.
Like, he does songs with Ty Dolla $ign, Nicki Minaj, G-Eazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, 21 Savage. So, like, he's friends with these people, but, like, you know, you don't see all the same drama through him.
Yeah.
So
it's a good thing.
But yeah, I mean, that's like how this album is. It kind of portrays, like, how he is like, he'll make this like hard stuff for, you know, some, like, more rap fans, then he's got some more hip hop stuff, and then, you know, even when we get to, like, Stay, he's got, like, all kinds of stuff on this album. But that's Better Now.
No, that was Over Now.
Oh yeah, Over Now, because now we're on Psycho.
Yes.
Which definitely stuck out, because this
time.
was one of the singles they released, I guess.
I would say probably my 3rd favorite on the album, but the race for top 3 is so close to me.
Yeah.
I think that Psycho, Better Now, and Stay are the 3 best on this album.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And I don't know what order I'd put them in. I might put Stay as number 1 for me.
That's definitely my number 1. But yeah, it's so close to me, because these 3 are such fucking awesome songs.
Mm. But yeah, for Psycho, I'm going to see how many plays it has real fast. 686 million.
Yeah,
so I'm not surprised.
Halfway to Rockstar. Still, this one I
a little
think
less
is
than
way
halfway
better.
To
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I think the thing with Psycho is it's kind of a chill hip hop song again,
mm-hmm.
and it's a lot slower than a lot of the other ones that we've heard, and I just think the flow of the verses is really well done, and again with the melodies are just so well written and everything that, like, you can't help it. It's, like, so catchy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, and, like, I don't know much about Ty Dolla $ign.
I don't either.
But I think he's got a really good verse in it too. I think they really play off each other really well. And I don't know, the whole thing is just, like, fun to listen to, and it's got some fun lyrics in it that, like, I don't know, it was one of the songs that I just couldn't, like, it's one of those songs that I didn't look up the lyrics to like learn it. I just listened to it so much that I knew them.
You know, that is this for this whole album for me.
Pretty much,
is I learned any song that I know the lyrics to is just because I listened to it so much because I thought it was really great.
I mean, on it, like, I don't do that often where I'll look up lyrics unless I don't understand what an artist is saying.
Yeah,
but if there's a song that I know most or all the lyrics to, then it's definitely like a good song to me.
Where the washing machine water runs, and the washing machine had been loaded before we started recording the podcast, and it was an unintended consequence while filming. So I apologize for you having to hear that. Back to the podcast.
But then we have Better Now after that, which we said was in the top 3.
It's my number 2.
Yeah.
I think Better Now is no matter how hard the radio tries to force this one down my throat, I will never get sick of it because they seriously play it on our like hip hop stations on an hourly basis, and I'll listen to it every single time, and I really never get sick of it.
Yeah,
I think it's so goddamn
we've
good.
We've got 2 radio stations that are like almost back to back, like with where they are on the stations. So like you'll tune into one and they'll play Better Now, and then you'll tune into the other and they're like halfway through Better Now.
Right.
You're like, oh, it never ends. It just keeps going. So yeah, when this album was still pretty new in the summer, that's one of the ones they would play so often. And even when it still wasn't as new, they held on to Better Now for sure.
How many plays does this one have?
645.
Oh, wow.
So
if I'm being
a little
honest,
bit less than Psycho.
I would have thought that this would have had the most plays. I think that from what I've heard from other reviewers, this is like kind of the quintessential Post Malone song. Really, like I've never heard anything bad about this one.
It's just like, yeah, it's again with the melodies and the flow of the song. Also, it's got such a great chorus, and the verses are just like, they're just fun to listen to because it's all upbeat and whatever. The lyrics are great.
It's a sad song. It's upbeat, but it's sad.
And I love those. I love those where you have to listen to it and you're like, wow, they really make this sound so like oh, I'm better now or whatever. Like you think the messages, and then you listen to all the lyrics and you're like, man, like it's kind of deep there. Kind of like how, well, I mean, I just think Post Malone does a really good job with having lyrics that are like deep and stuff that you can understand and really feel, because you get like what was it off of his first album? I Fall Apart. Yeah. Like that one, when I first heard that one, I was like, holy shit, who the fuck hurt you, Post Malone? Like, damn. So, yeah, he's really proved himself with the way he can write lyrics, and any of these songs you can pick out some lyrics and they're unique. Some of them are like, they're more like kind of like funny or clever or whatever.
Right.
But like those are just as good as some of the like really deep lyrics that he has.
Yeah.
So I think Better Now is a good example of some of the like great lyricism he has.
Mm-hmm.
And then Stay, which is next.
Oh God, best song on the album.
Yeah, this is like one of the ones kind of like I Fall Apart that surprises you, and you're like, he's got a pretty good voice. He can play guitar. Mm-hmm. He knows what he's doing when he writes melodies and when he writes lyrics and everything, and like he just shows it off, especially in this one, and everything about it's good. Yeah. Even if like there's no ridiculous like guitar melodies or ridiculous guitar chords or whatever. I mean, you don't need that. There's so many great songs that are just like simple guitar chords with a fantastic melody over top and like great lyricism and everything. So,
yeah, it's a really like soulful song, which I like. It's my favorite to sing along with, and I learned it on guitar because I like it so much.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like, because if you had it like anything that was too technical, you know, people would be like, oh, I can't play this or whatever.
Right.
But this is a song you could pick up if you want to play it. If you want to learn it on guitar, you can learn it on guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's just like, it's a fun song that you can also sing and learn how to play and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's part of what sets this one apart from the other ones, is because it's one that you're like, hey, I really like that one, and you can go learn it.
Right.
You know? All
sometimes,
these other ones.
Yeah. Sometimes the simplicity is what makes it so good.
Exactly.
It makes it accessible for
then,
everybody.
yeah, too technical, and it's like too much going on. But
Yeah.
it fits really well, because I'm sure you could add some like electronic stuff in there, or some other like melodies or whatever in there to make it, like I said, more technical. But then what's the point in that? Because it's kind of the simplicity, bare bones guitar and vocals, and that's the point of it, is because it's soft and mellow.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need all that extra stuff on it. Whereas, like, you know, some of the other slower ones back there have some beats in it and stuff, and but they're just not quite as slow. There's the message of them isn't quite as soft as this one. So the way that he writes the parts, or that they write the parts for it, kind of show the tone of the song, I guess. So yeah.
And then after that, the rest of the album kind of falls off for me.
Yeah.
There's a couple, like Blame It On Me is okay. Same Bitches.
I like
Same
Bitches because
right.
I like G-Eazy, and there was a time where I would listen to it like, well, not like on repeat, but it would come on. I would be like, oh shit, I know this one. But yeah, then after a while, it was kind of like, it's good, but not as good as some of the other ones.
It's a kind of goofy song that.
Yeah,
it's.
Which
it's
I don't.
alright.
Yeah, I don't mind goofy, but I much prefer some of the other ones. You know.
Right.
Because it's kind of weird to listen to, like. Well, I don't know. Sometimes it's weird listening to a goofy song and you're like, oh, that verse was funny, and you're all by yourself and you're like, oh well, all right. I don't know if he's done anything wrong in this album. There's nothing I've ever heard that I was like, oh, I didn't really like that. Like anything that I would necessarily skip because I was like, oh, that was so bad, I just don't want to listen to it.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely not anything like that. It's just, I think you can burn yourself out on some of these songs.
Yeah, which is fair. Which I think that's what we've done, because it's older, you know.
Yeah, early in the year this came out. It had to have. But.
It came out in. I looked it up. It came out in, I think, April 27th or something, late April.
Yeah.
Yeah, April 27th. So, I mean, yeah, like, and that's kind of our perspective after it being so old. Well, not like so old, but like old now.
Right.
You know, it's been a whole summer and everything. So now that we've listened to it for so long, this is kind of like our opinion of it from now on.
Right.
I think this is how we're always going to view it from now on, after burning ourselves out from some of the other songs. So.
Yeah, but I mean, still, overall, it's a fantastic album.
How would you rate this album? Any rating system you'd like.
Any rating
How many
system.
beer bongs out of Bentleys would you give it?
This got some urination from me for sure. To put it on the piddle scale. Because I think that this defied my expectations so hard. Because I really was like, I'm not going to like Post Malone. Like, no matter what everyone keeps telling me, I'm not going to like Post Malone. He just doesn't look like... He doesn't seem like the kind of music that I'd get into. But then... Once I listened to this album, I couldn't stop listening to this album. His other album has a couple really good songs.
It's a shorter album by far.
But
I think it only has like 10 songs on it or something, but I don't really remember. I remember it being really short because I don't know, I guess it's got a lot.
Well, yeah, see, and that's the thing is, there's not on that album as many standouts to me. He's got Congratulations, Feeling Whitney, I like.
Yeah, it was his first album, so he's got a lot of stuff that is kind of the same, and that's why I thought it had far less songs on it, because I don't remember a lot of the songs he did, because there's good ones on here, but there's a lot of ones that like I remember skipping because I was like, it's not that great.
Right. Yeah. But this other one, the Beer Bongs and Bentleys, was just. Mm-hmm. Oh, you also looked at the deluxe edition, so it may not actually have that many.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a different. I think it only has deluxe, but I don't know what the like bonus songs are on it. Mm-hmm. This one's I guess there is a deluxe version of it, I think.
I don't think so. I haven't seen one for this, but
I think it'd be on here if there was. But yeah, I mean, I think the difference between Stoney was that there's like really good songs that you could pick out of it, but then Beer Bongs and Bentleys is like there's really good songs you can pick out of it, but all the other ones are like so solid that it's a great album that you can just like pop on.
Right.
So, yeah, definite urination is the consensus.
Yep, I would slap that on the deluxe.
Slap it right on the
Post Malone, Beer Bongs and Bentley, definite urination.
100% urination, right on the cover like that. All right, and then we have
Pray for the Wicked
next, and
a much shorter album, like
yes,
way shorter. So that Post Malone album is like over an hour long. Yeah. This album is 34 minutes long.
I want to see. Hold on. Click on. Yeah, an hour and 4 minutes.
Yeah.
For Beer Bongs and Bentleys.
That's a long. That's actually, I don't want to say that that's long for an album. I feel like 45 minutes to an hour is usually how long an album lasts.
I think so. Yeah, I think an hour is usually on the longer end. Mm-hmm, but it's not like ridiculously long, because I'm sure there's albums out there that easily break an hour, but I mean I don't know album lengths off the top of my head.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean this one, there's 7 less songs on there. There's definitely a few short songs like Fuck a Silver Linings 2:49 if it falls under 3 minutes.
Right.
King of the Clouds Old Fashioned, all, and Hey Look Ma, I Made It, all short under 3 minutes.
And you don't have anything that breaks 4 minutes, which a lot of albums do.
Yeah, which is very common. I think it's common for a lot of albums to have like a couple 5-minute songs even.
Right.
Like they usually like to have a long song that, I don't know, whether it's an instrumental or something like that, or they just have a lot of different verses in it. But yeah, I mean, so I think for me, like, I know you're definitely the bigger Panic! At the Disco fan.
For sure.
Yeah, and I know for me, like, not that, so I don't really know a ton about Panic! At the Disco and like all their albums and stuff, but I think around, I want to say maybe Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die. They had some really good songs on there, but the band as a whole started to fall in the background for me because they
were all gone.
Well,
pretty much at this point, Brennan Urie was like the last one left.
Really?
Yeah. I think actually that may have been the first album where he was the only original member.
Well, I just, like, they had some real good hits like before, but to me they were really popular and everything, but with all the songs that they played on the radio and like everybody that had like their favorite Panic! At the Disco songs, they were all like so much the same to me, and I was like, well, I'm burnt out on these big hits, so I'm burnt out on the band.
Okay.
So then like Death of a Bachelor came out, same thing. I was like, oh, I'm sick of this band by now. And then when Pray for the Wicked came out, I mean, and this was the like kind of like I knew you were like a big Panic! At the Disco fan. They're coming out with a new album, and so I listened to like some of the old stuff, and I was like, well, yeah, this is pretty good. I understand why it's so popular. But then again, I didn't know too much, and then this album came out, and I was like, all right, they know how to do it. They know how to make music.
Yeah.
Like some real good music. Because I don't know if there's a song on this album that I don't like.
There's one or two that in the context of the full band kind of fall in the background for me. But, overall, I think this was a fantastic album. And the thing that I love about Panic at the Disco is every album is like a new genre that they kind of step into. Mm-hmm. The first one was the like kind of pop punk, emo band. That's like what they went down as. And then they moved into a more folky, not really country, but kind of like a southern rockish vibe. And then
kind of with like a country influence.
It definitely had a folk influence, big
but
time.
I think they continuously had their own sound because Brendan Urie himself is just so unique.
His vocals are amazing. He can hit some like incredible notes.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And you rarely see that in bands like this.
Right.
A lot of the time it's, especially when you have like a rock band, they always just have kind of like a flat vocalist that it's not always necessarily bad.
Right.
A lot of the time they're great vocalists that write great melodies and everything. Mm-hmm. But this one, like with Brendan Urie, you're like, you can't deny that he's a great singer. Mm-hmm. And I never did, even though like I was like, oh, I'm burnt out on this band. I was like, they're talented. I can't, and it's obvious with the like all the hits that they've had throughout all their albums. But
yeah, so as a like hardcore Panic at the Disco fan at this point, I own every one of their albums on CD, vinyl, digital, fucking all of it. And I know so much about like the band's past and shit. But this wasn't my favorite album that they've put out. But I think that it's got some really, really fantastic songs. There's 2 or 3 on here that are like maybe even in like my top 10 Panic songs. I love them so much.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, and we saw them in concert.
Fuck yeah, we did.
We did. We had some pretty good seats.
Yeah.
Expensive, pretty good seats.
Indeed.
But they did a great job with what songs they chose to play at the concert, because I think they just played like their best. And even though some of them I didn't really know that much, I was like, this is a good song, so I'm not gonna not dance.
There's one song that I wish that they would play, but I know they never will, and that's New Perspective. I so badly wanted to hear that one live, but they haven't done it yet. All my other favorites they've done though.
Yeah.
Because I've seen them twice, and they've checked off all my other favorites. So. And they put on a pretty big show. Yeah.
It's concert was definitely, I think it was the biggest venue. They had everything. Like I've seen bands that have had some like effects during their shows and everything, but Panic at Fire.
They did.
Floating pianos.
Oh yeah. Laser lights that went through fog.
Yeah, I've seen that, but like still, it's one of the things. Like backflips, raising and lowering platforms. I don't even know what else they had all kinds of stuff that was really nice. But yeah, and all that stuff like just adds to the experience. You're like the visual experience plus the music that you enjoy so much is just like, oh, this is really sweet.
Yeah.
So it was I haven't been to like an insane amount of concerts, but it was definitely like one of the best concert experiences I've had, just as far as the way that they did all their visuals and everything. It was great.
All right, so let's hop into the album.
I might have to do these songs a little faster because there's a lot more better songs. But the first 2 came out at the same time.
They did.
Fuck a Silver Lining and Say Amen, Saturday night. I don't remember how early they were released, but they were released first. And Say Amen was like everybody just like grasped onto it.
Oh yeah, big time. And so I understand like getting burnt out on the popular songs because the radio will fucking show them so hard. Like Say Amen and King of the Clouds. Is that the other one that the radios play all the time?
I don't know.
So the radio like non-stop played Say Amen and King of the Clouds, and I could see why people would get burnt out. I also don't think that those are even near the best on this album, which sucks.
I really enjoyed Say Amen when it came out, and that's when like those two came out, and I listened to them, and I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like this, and then I ended up liking it. But I think Say Amen is just so Fuck a Silver Lining really like is a great like intro song to the album. It's just under 3 minutes again, like we said with some of the other songs, and it's just like right off the bat like energetic and great. I don't know, it's great to provide the intro to the rest of the album, and that's kind of how I see it, is like an intro song to the whole album.
Okay.
But it's still a good song on its own. But I think to me it mostly serves its purpose as an introduction, and then Say Amen is kind of like their like single from the album, which is really good, really well written. I love pretty much everything about it. I don't know, like I don't even know if I'm burnt out on it, because I think it's really good.
Yeah. So the day that these came out, this was pretty much all I listened to for the full day. And I don't know. Everyone else liked Say Amen more. I liked Fuck a Silver Lining more. I think that it's punchier. It is
punchier. That's a good word to use for it.
Man, I don't know if I would say it's more grand. They utilize their like brass section more in it, which I like.
I was gonna kind of mention that because that's a big theme in this album, is that they had like a brass and string section.
Yes.
Which is one of the things that it's like, hey, we're gonna do something new, and they did it right.
It's the ghost of Derek.
It's time for the cameo. I needed to make it at least once this episode. Brass of Silver Lining. Is that what you guys are talking about? What are you guys talking about?
Talking about brass, dude.
Panic at the Disco, your favorite.
Oh, yes. I hate Panic.
Yes, he does.
I can't stand the singer's voice.
That's because Derek doesn't listen to anything but Godzilla music.
Yeah, Derek, what name 2018's 3 top albums?
Ready Player One soundtrack.
Or movie soundtracks.
An Infinity War soundtrack.
Uh-huh.
What was another good movie that came out this year?
No, we're not asking about good movies.
Well, I need to know the movie so I can know if I like the soundtrack.
You told me earlier what your third one was.
I don't know.
Had to do with The Rim.
No, not Pacific Rim Uprising. That was a joke.
Oh.
Because I don't like that soundtrack.
Oh.
That's the Dman cameo.
Yeah, they got like a brass and string section, and that was kind of their thing for this album. And they just like they didn't do it just because they were like, we need to do something new,
right?
And whatever, like they did it, and they were like, we want to do a good job with it, and so that's what they ended up doing.
See, I would almost say that Pray for the Wicked is like Death of a Bachelor Part 2. Almost.
Yeah.
Because they did have a brass section for some of the songs in Death of a Bachelor, but I think that they definitely used them more in Pray for the Wicked. And I think that of all of their albums, these two are the most similar in sound. This one kind of, like, you've got Roaring Twenties, which kind of, for me, is the indicator of what this album is. This is kind of their 20s swing sound.
It's the most experimentative song.
Right, yeah.
Which is good because like they have this stuff that it's like, hey, we know that our fans will like this.
Right.
And then we're adding new stuff into some of these songs. but then here's kind of a more different sounding song than the rest of it, and we'll kind of throw it in there and see what everybody thinks of it.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, and it got a lot of positive feedback, I think, that one song.
Yeah, and so this is like, to me, a more 20s swing sounding album, and the last one was like almost a tribute to Frank Sinatra. Like Death of a Bachelor itself, I always think is a really like Frank Sinatra-y song, and the rest of the music kind of fits into that era of music, but it's got a little more variation. This one I think was a little more of a grounded sound, where they used the brass in probably most of these songs.
Yeah,
and I think that sets this album apart from the rest. But like I said, every album has a new sound, which is, I think, helps to keep them fresh.
Yeah. The brass section, and I guess a little bit of the string section too, really serve its purpose as kind of like some of the songs or the album being like stadium hits, where it's like kind of like you think of like big band music, where there's like a lot of sound and everything, and it's just like blasting at, and you're like, oh, this is great, like all this sound and whatever. And so it's a really great, like it's a really great live experience, because there's so much sound coming at you, and it's just like all this energy from all these people on stage and everything, and you feel more like a part of it. I think because of that.
I also think we appreciate it because we played instruments like saxophone and trumpet.
Yeah,
they utilize pretty well.
Yeah,
in this,
a little bit.
So.
That's always kind of fun. I always appreciate that, because I'm like, hey, that's my instrument.
Yep.
I know that, and it's kind of cool to see him get recognized, because there was like in the jazz era where like that's all it was, that's all the music was, and then they kind of came out of that, and I think for a while, especially in like maybe the earlier 2000s, you never saw it anymore. And then people were like, well, early 2000s music sucked. So let's go back to some of the other stuff.
Nickelback, dude. That's where we got Nickelback.
You got me there. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, it's a really great example of like how music can progress, but then there's still like some stuff that we know we like, so they kind of go back to it. So it's like a callback to some other music and other styles, but they're still moving forward, which is great. And I think a lot of my favorite albums and artists kind of do that. I think we see it with Post Malone, with some of like his folk stuff, like his folky sounding songs, like slower songs, and we see it here too, especially here, I think. Yeah. So, I mean, that really says a lot about almost every single song on here. Yeah. Hey Look Ma, I Made It.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah.
I think that's a song from Brennan Urie that's very real.
Yeah, it's like a celebratory song. Right. It's like it's in the title almost.
Yeah, it's the song that like everyone wants to sing, because we all want to feel that. Yeah. You want that feeling that you've made it, and I think that this song kind of encapsulates that feeling. I think I like that one. High Hopes was... Oh, actually, High Hopes might be the other one that the radio forces down our throats.
Well, High Hopes is... I think it's great. I like the energy in it, and they have some parts where they feature, like, they've got like a small trumpet solo, and they've got like a little string section, which is really nice. I'm trying to think of... I mean, the verses are good, and I really like... Because I know the strings and the trumpet solo are like thrown in the background, and I really love like when they're doing a verse and then like another instrument will like pop up for like the second half of the verse or something. I always like that because it gives it some more uniqueness throughout the song, so you don't get tired of it. So like the first verse you get, and he's singing his verse, and then the strings come in, and you're like, oh, that's cool. Does the chorus, and then when he goes back to the next verse, instead of the strings, they put the trumpet solo there, and you're like, oh, that's cool. Like now we get to hear new stuff, and they're not just like copying and pasting the verses, and the only thing that is the same as like the chorus maybe, and even that like they might change up the chorus, but it's still like a 3-minute song, so I think they only do the chorus twice, or they might do it a couple times, and then so they kind of build to the chorus for like one last time, and then like the last chorus is kind of like a grand hit.
Right.
So
I do have one criticism of this song, and it's their use of a drum track, a drum loop.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, you can hear it real well at the start of the song. It's just distracting to me. I don't like it because I know that he plays drums. I know that he can play. He did that kick-ass solo live.
I think he probably did it on like an electronic drum pad.
Yeah, it just...
So it's not necessarily that it's like a digital thing that they just tossed in there. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's not necessarily the point. It's the point. It's like the sound.
The sound. It's a distracting sound for me.
Yeah, I could understand that because it might seem a little out of place, but
yeah. Oh, and I don't know. Overall, this song is a little more poppy than the rest of the stuff on the album. Mm-hmm. And so, if I weren't such a hardcore Panic fan and they played that on the radio, I would get sick of it, guaranteed.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, after that we have the Roaring Twenties, which we talked about, which is probably one of the most different songs, but still kind of like it's the same enough that it fits in there. It's not just like they did something totally different and you're like, this doesn't even fit in here. So they have a lot of the same like sound in their style, but they made it a lot more jazzy, which is I enjoy. I always enjoy when artists do that, so like we kind of talked about before.
And the one thing I have to say about that one is I think that the chorus is a little weak lyrically.
Yeah, it's pretty there's not a whole lot in the chorus.
Yeah, but it's a really upbeat song, and I think that the style that they use works really well. So I like it, but I don't love it. Mm-hmm. That's the way I'd describe that one.
Sure. Dancing's Not a Crime.
Oh, I love that song so much.
I love it too. It's just, I like playing it live. I was like, it feels like he's like asking me to dance. It's like,
right?
Like you have to dance to this song, because it's like literally about dancing.
Yeah, it's
so. Yeah, the whole song just like fits the title. It's just like dancing's not a crime, so just like dance to this song.
Right. It's such an upbeat and fun song. I'd say that it's probably the most fun song on the album. Like if I were throwing a party, I would use that one for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a way to not like that song.
There's a lot of these songs that if you were throwing a party, you could put these songs on there because it's a very upbeat album in the majority of it. Mm-hmm. So, and I think it's one of those albums where a lot of people will kind of recognize it, but then there's some stuff that's pretty like repetitive enough that you can like kind of dance to it and everything,
right?
But not repetitive in a bad way, because there's like bad repetitive, and then there's like repetitive that's like literally how music is written,
right?
Because if you change anything up too much, you're like, what the hell is this song?
But then you move to track 8, The Overpass, which is my fucking favorite on this album. I love this song so goddamn much, and they didn't play it live. I was so let down. It's like, it's such a big like symphonic piece. It's like a James Bond intro. That's the way I always think of it, is like The Overpass is like the big actiony song that James Bond is jumping out of helicopters to.
Yeah, no, it's like, yeah, they've got that big band sound at the beginning. Now that I'm reminded of that, like, the like big sound. Because like I remember the lyrics and everything, but I'm like, what does it sound? What does that chorus sound like with in all, like the context? It's like we were talking about with the big band sound, that it's like it just like blasts you with it, and you're like, yeah, this is sweet. Yes. There's so much energy in it. So yeah, it is kind of surprising they didn't play it.
I knew that overall that wasn't going to be a big hit. I knew that would kind of... To me, that's the Post Malone Stay. Stay is such a good song, but I knew that it's kind of a break for the fan base, to where if I think Post Malone, that might not be what I think of when I think Post Malone.
Okay.
And this is that to me, is the Overpass is like... I think it's a fantastic song, but I think for the core Panic at the Disco audience, or I guess not the core, the more general Panic at the Disco audience, it's not what you'd think of if you thought of Panic at the Disco. And so because of that, I knew that it wouldn't be recognized as much as like any of the other songs on this album, and I knew that overall the reception of it would have been a little lower.
Yeah, and it's a tough comparison to Stay, because people that really like Post Malone will be like, yeah, Stay's a fantastic song.
Right,
but
so core audience versus general audience.
But then, like, when you said the general audience, I was like, that makes a lot more sense, because general audience, you get Rockstar that has 1.3 billion
yes,
plays.
Exactly.
But then, you have Stay with the bigger fans that are like, this is fantastic. Mm-hmm. But, it only gets 300 million plays. So, or something like 600 million, I think it was. But yeah, so that makes a lot of sense.
And then you round the album out with Dying in LA, which is the ballad of the album.
Yeah, I guess.
And it's not my favorite Panic ballad, but I do like it.
It took me a few plays to kind of like a little bit more. I never really listened for the message in it, which I think sometimes is important to do with the softer songs and the ballads. But like, yeah, it's good, but I've heard other ballads that have really like kind of struck a chord with me. So maybe that's the thing, is like especially like with the title of it and then like the chorus and everything, I didn't hear anything that was like, oh, I can relate to that. Okay. But maybe I can. Maybe I just haven't looked into the lyrics very much. But I think other ballads that I enjoy more, I would like hear a line or something, and I was like, that, I can relate to that. And then I would listen to more of the lyrics, and then I was like, oh, okay, I see what the message here is. So maybe it was just that, but I mean, it was a good piano part, great vocals and everything.
It was fun to watch him play it live. This was the one where he had the floating piano going around.
Right above our heads. But yeah, I mean, this one was a surprising, it was a surprise urination,
A surprise urination.
To me, because like...
Okay, so that was my Post Malone, I guess. It was a surprise urination for me, because I didn't think I would like it.
Yeah, and that's just because, like I said before, where I had just kind of blocked out what they were doing before, and then I was like, they're popular for a reason, and they come out with some stuff, and I'm like, well, this is good, and then the whole thing comes out, and I'm like, yeah, good sound. They're doing something right. So then, urination, therefore.
There you go. Yeah, I think that with Fuck a Silver Lining, The Overpass, Hey Look Ma, I Made It,
Rolling 20's High Hopes, Dances in My Car.
I think that those three specifically were my three favorites on this album. And, yeah, I mean, I urinated. It was my standard Panic at the Disco urination that I do for all their albums.
Yeah, that's fair, though. But, you know, like, coming from somebody that is such a big fan, that's probably a good thing. Right. You're going to want, like the strong fan base to urinate at the release of your new album. Right. But then, like, I think this is a good example that they get the fan base that will have their urination at the release of the album, and you get people that, like me, that didn't really listen to them, then this comes out, and then I get a urination out of it. So it's a win-win. Yes. Everybody pisses. So, that's good. Yeah.
Let's move on to Joji's ballads.
Joji is quite the interesting fellow, and I'll tell you what, I remember somebody telling me that he made music back before he released anything, before he was signed, before he released anything officially, like on his SoundCloud because everybody knew him as Filthy Frank.
Right.
So then somebody sent me like a picture of him recording audio in a recording booth, and he looked so normal. It was like, what the hell?
Yes.
And then I looked up his SoundCloud, and I think there was a couple songs that were on his first album. Will He was on his SoundCloud, I know. Well, actually, most if not everything was on his SoundCloud. I remember for sure listening to Will He and I think like Demons and maybe Window or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then he had some other like kind of smaller ones that didn't get as popular but was all still good. And that's when I kind of had like a little phase where I really liked some of the more electronic kind of like lo-fi sound music, I guess. Which he did some lo-fi songs or lo-fi. I don't know.
Lo-fi. I say lo-fi.
I think it's lo-fi. I don't know. But yeah, he's done some of that too, which I ended up really liking because I've found some lo-fi songs that were really pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So it got me into this, and then he got signed to 88 Rising, and then he started releasing stuff officially, and I was like, now cool, I can listen to this on Spotify instead of SoundCloud. And then but he had that stuff out for a while, so like it took I think a few years until he actually released like new music that I hadn't heard before.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really happy with it. So right into Ballads 1.
Let's do it.
And a lot different sound from the other stuff that we heard. A lot more chill, especially since they're
big
like
time.
ballads.
Here's what I'll say about this album right off the bat is it's an uneven album for me. I think that the first half of the album is really great, and the second half is a little more through the cracks, kind of slips my mind.
Okay. I've got some. I think they're mixed in here. Some of the songs that really stand out and don't. But it's a 35-minute album. It has one more song than Pray for the Wicked.
Yeah.
But some of these are a lot shorter.
I think it's like 1 minute longer than Panic's album too. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. So, and especially with like this kind of music, you can't get too repetitive because a lot of it's kind of the same. You have the drum loops and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you do it right because you can't listen to a song for 5 minutes that this is the same drum loop and you don't do anything with the verse and the chorus is all the same. But anyway, starting with Attention, this one is again one of the ones that just serves as kind of like an intro to me.
It definitely does,
Yeah.
But that being said, I do like it.
I like it.
I think that if I were listening to this album, I would never just start with the second song. I would always listen to Attention first, you know?
Sure, yeah. I don't know, there's really not a whole lot for me to say about it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like a good...
It's the intro.
Yeah. But Slow Dancing in the Dark
Ooh.
came out as a single a while... maybe like a month before the album came out or something. I can't remember.
I feel like it was more than that.
It was more.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't even know where to start with it.
Oh, it's such a
like,
good song. It's so fantastic.
His vocals are just fantastic in it. You get a feel of what he's singing about in it with his tone. And I really like the pitch bend chords in the chorus.
Yes.
It's like... I always love like pitch bends and stuff, or like when you take a note and you pitch bend it to the next one and hold it instead of just like a little like guitar like bend or whatever.
Right.
Those are like always so cool to me, and not nearly enough people do it. I'm glad it's not overdone, but like I've heard it before in songs where it's like subtle or they'll use it a couple times, but this one it uses it all the time in the chorus, and it's like it builds, and every time it goes up like a chord up the the scale, and it just builds so well, and it's like everything. I don't know. It starts off so like soft and kind of, I don't know the right word to use is, but it's just, it builds towards something,
Yes.
I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's a relatable song.
Yeah,
it's also a good
definitely
one to sing along with. I enjoy that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's general enough, which, I mean, I really like when songs have general enough lyrics that we can take it and interpret it as our own.
Right.
Because he's got a really specific situation that he's singing about, but then, one of us can hear it and we're like, wow, that reminds me of like this situation that I've either been in or that I'm going through right now.
Right.
So you can be like, oh damn, like that's deep. So yeah, there's a lot of feels in that one, and he just expresses it through his voice so well, and the chords in it are so great and like kind of powerful, and yet also kind of like gives you some feels. So definitely like I might say my favorite on the album. I'm not positive.
I would definitely say it's my favorite.
All right. And Test Drive after that came out as a single after this one, I know.
Yes.
I could look it up.
So, no, you're right. What were all the singles from this one, though?
Slow Dancing in the Dark for sure. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Where is...
I think that they just at this point incorporated it into the album, so you don't
I
see
know
it as a
came
single
out
anymore. Test Drive, I thought was the last single that came out.
I'm almost positive it was the last single that came out. Loud Luxury.
Oh, Can't Get Over You, that was the other one. That's right. So Can't Get Over You was the technically the third. I never really thought of Yeah Right as a single for this album, because this album was not in my consciousness when Yeah Right came out.
Yeah Right came out, I think it was, I guess, besides 18, it was like, because 18 isn't on this one.
No, that's like a collab song.
Oh yeah, that's right. I couldn't remember if it like showed up on an album.
No.
So I wouldn't count 18. So I guess Yeah Right was his first like single. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even think of it as like in the context of an album.
Right.
I just thought it was a song he would release like a lot of other bands do. Like, hey, I'm working on a song, but I don't want it to be a part of an album. It's just a song that I wrote, and I just want to release it because I like it. But it doesn't. Maybe it was just because like he was working on stuff, and then he like finished that one, and then he was like, all right, I'll put this out. So I've got some content, and he wanted to work on like an album. And he's like, oh, it works with the album, puts it in there. I don't know.
That's the way it felt to me. Like he was like, oh, this would fit in this album.
Yeah.
We had kind of mentioned this before, but Post Malone's album had some variety in it. Panic's album had some variety in it. This album is kind of like, as the title says, like a straight ballad.
Yeah.
So if you listen to this album as a whole, unless you're really focusing on the album, I think it's easy for a lot of these to fall into the background category.
Yeah.
Because, like, when I listen to this album a lot, I think, I was at work, I was doing schoolwork, I was playing video games, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And some of them stand out, but it's mainly just the ones that he released as singles. The rest of them kind of became, like, ambient noise in the background of whatever I was doing, which is fine, but I think that, especially the second half of this album, that's kind of what happens for me. Is I start to not notice the song as much, just because it is like a straight ballad.
Mm-hmm. Well, now number 5, Can't Get Over You, is under 2 minutes long, and I'm kind of glad it is, because it's really just a straightforward song.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that it's like really bad, but it's just kind of like, here's a nice like couple verses we wrote, and we're just gonna stick them in there as like a short song.
Right.
So it's okay for me, but that one for sure, like, I'll forget about, and it falls in the background because it's so short.
I remember this one because it was released as a single, and so when all you have to listen to is the singles. If you listen to them a lot, they stick out to you. But if this had just shown up on the album, I don't think I would have really taken note of it.
Yeah.
I think it's also kind of a flat sound to it.
Yeah.
The way he sings,
Yeah.
the chorus at least.
Very much so. But then after that, Yeah Right, we kind of talked about number 6 on the album.
Yep. That was, again, I got into Joji this year because I discovered him through, I watched a lot of Max Mofo.
Yeah.
And then Pink Guy music was recommended to me. So I started listening to that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is Filthy Frank, yeah. And then I started seeing Joji music recommended to me, and I was like, who the fuck is Joji? Like, why is he being recommended? And I realized that it was Filthy Frank, and I was like, okay, I'll give that a shot. And I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. And at the time that I was listening to it, the first EP, whatever, I can't remember what it's called.
In Tongues.
In Tongues, yeah. In Tongues was out, and Yeah Right was out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I listened to those on heavy repeat.
Yeah.
And so I really got acquainted with Yeah Right, and I think that it's a pretty fucking solid song.
Yeah Right is almost like a way to connect the two albums, because it sounds a lot like something that would fit on In Tongues, and especially because it was released like way before this whole album came out. But like it reminds me of In Tongues a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It's got like it's got a nice like the instrumentation they use in it, so like the melodies and riffs and stuff in it. I don't know if you'd necessarily call them riffs. I'm trying to think of like whatever that background music is, and it's got like a good beat, and he sings well in it. So it's a great way to connect the two albums, in my opinion. Now, why am I still in LA? I'm always a fan of when they do like an instrument build into something, and they do that in this song, which is why I like it so much. But then there's so much of it that's just kind of similar that it falls in the background.
Right.
But then when it comes on, I'm like, oh yeah, this one, and then I get to the build, and I'm like, yeah, they do this really well. So, yeah, not too much to say about it, but I do really like the way that they have the build in there, and then they kind of break away from some of it, and
it definitely resolves in the like mellow sound.
And they kind of fade out with it. So
Yep.
Yeah, I like what they do with it, but nothing to stand out, I guess.
Now, No Fun is the next song, and that one is one of my favorites on this album.
Yeah, it's got a good chorus in it. I like it. I kind of like the when I think about this one, I think about when he was like making videos with iDubbbz and Max Mofo, and he's like off to go do his own thing now, and they're going doing their new thing now, and maybe not necessarily that he's like throwing shade at them. I don't know, because I don't know
that. I always think about that when I listen to this, and I'm like,
Yeah.
who is the friends that he's talking about this in it? But
so
I think that it's probably the most upbeat song on the album.
Yeah.
And I like it a lot because of that. I think it's the most fun to listen to, because like Slow Dancing in the Dark, it's not necessarily a fun song, but it's
but it's great to listen to.
Yeah, it's a great one to listen to. This one, on the other hand, is No Fun is fun.
Yeah, No Fun's fun.
That's what I'll say. No Fun is fun. I enjoy that one a lot. After that, though, I cannot tell you what any of these songs sound like.
I know R.I.P. is one of my favorites. I know Come Through a little bit. I like he's kind of got like a falsetto that he does in it, which is cool. I like when he does that. I also like when he just kind of has like a breathy like vocal sound, like in I know he does it in Yeah Right. So he's got like a really big variety in some of his sound. I guess a lot of the kind of like slower ballads have kind of like more of a breathy, like deeper vocal, and then stuff like this has the higher kind of falsetto, which is cool, but not super.
To me, this is the song that plays after No Fun.
Yeah.
But I do recognize it when you play it, especially that like when he does that falsetto where he's like, "No caller ID,"
Yeah.
you know, like that stands out.
Mm-hmm.
I do recognize that line, but for the most part, I don't know.
Now,
I might listen to that one on its own from time to time, but
R.I.P. is one of my favorites on this one because I like the piano in the back. It's got like a nice safe drum beat, but then they have this guy Trippie Redd. Never heard of him before, but he does vocals in this, and Joji does a verse. He does a verse. It kind of like stops, and I think it starts to build, and then once it builds, you hit this kind of like bass drop that I just love so much.
yes, okay, the bass drop is good.
And I really like Trippie Redd's voice. I don't know. It's like all that. Like I really like.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I just like I can just imagine him like really. I don't know what he looks like, but I imagine him really getting into the song and really enjoying it, and that's what I enjoy.
Yeah, it's funny. It's the opposite for me. Trippie Redd kills it for me. I don't really like his vocals. I don't know.
All right. XNXX.
Oh, okay. I like the lyrics in this one, and I like the way, kind of the speed that he chooses to go with it. But again, maybe it's just the title is fucking incomprehensible, so I'd never put it to this song. If this song was called Run Around, I'd know exactly what it was.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I like it. I like that song.
He does a little bit of a variety in some of the vocals. It's a nice song. Maybe nothing too stand out, but it serves its purpose. It's a good song. I'll See You in 40. I always forget too, but I know
it's a long one. It's weird.
There's like 3 parts to it.
Yeah.
He's got like the intro, and then it comes in. You have the beat that comes in, and he does a different, almost an entirely different song.
Yeah.
And then it stops, and then you get the ukulele, and it's again almost an entirely different song.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool, and they all of them work together.
Right.
And, like it's not just like this part stops and now it's a new part. It kind of like the first one builds into it, and then you get like a new song, and then that song almost kind of fades out and stops, and then you get the ukulele until the outro, and it serves as a really good outro. That like part 3.
Right.
So. I think that's the longest song on there, is it? It just barely beats Wanted You.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for like a 3-part song, it makes sense. But
right.
That's good, and they don't get too repetitive with like the 3 parts, you know? Because they could have just done like, I don't know, part 3 and have it like a 1-minute outro song.
Right.
But I like how they have the 3 parts, and then they just kind of put it in there as an intro. It's good. I like it. Overall, I think I would want to urinate more, but there was definitely urination.
Yeah, there was not as much for the last 2 albums, but I really like this. It again defies what my expectations for music from Filthy Frank would be. It's almost shocking when you compare the 2 side to side, but.
And I really like it because it's another genre I can just add to the stuff that I like now. Because I think we both can say that we've come from a place where we started and we were like, I only like one genre.
Yes.
And then we're like, okay, well, I like one genre and then this.
Oh, yeah.
And then we start branching out and we get a little bit more open-minded.
Yeah.
And now I feel pretty open-minded about everything because I can listen to pretty much everything and find something that will fit kind of like my style in a way. And I think just with a lot of the things that both of us listen to, a lot of this stuff kind of fits both of our styles.
Yeah.
And I know there's some stuff that we like both branch off in different ways for.
Right.
But a lot of this stuff is kind of like, I don't know, it's just what introduced us to like a new genre that's like, wow, that's good. That's fun to listen to.
Yeah, and the thing that I most like about it is the relatability it gives you to other people. You know, if someone were to say, oh, my favorite style of music is this, and because of stuff like this that fits my genre but isn't necessarily, or it fits my style but isn't necessarily my genre, I can relate a little more, and I could be like, oh yeah, there's this in your genre that I can get into.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, you can. Yeah, and I think that's kind of what's important to me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like music a lot of the time for me is super important. It's like a lot of the things I can't do without music. It's just kind of like a background in my life a lot of the time.
Big time.
And then like a way for me to kind of relate to other people, and then like through lyrics you can relate to like the artist and stuff like that. It's just kind of, it's great stuff.
Yeah, here's an example, because I don't know that my point was very clear. I think I confused myself even. But you and I have very similar tastes in music. Dalton, on the other hand, has a very different taste in music. He likes like the Imagine Dragons kind of poppy music that I don't like very much.
Yeah.
But we can come together and like Panic at the Disco together.
Right.
It fits my style and it fits his genre. And because there's a lot of things like Joji that fits my style but isn't necessarily my genre, I think that I can relate to other people through Joji that like that kind of genre.
Yeah, yeah. I think I knew what you meant. I'm pretty sure I understood.
I like to provide examples to back up my claims.
That's yeah, because I mean,
3 sources.
I was kind of thinking about stuff like that, because I was thinking about how like a radio station will play a lot of songs, and I'm like, well, I don't hate this, but I'm not like really into it.
Right.
So it's kind of like opened up my mind, and like even though that there's some good songs that are like out there that have been released, there's like these that I've really like I've heard, and I'm like, I need this full album.
Yes.
Instead of just like singles or little songs. So yeah.
So that's ballads. Finally, we're going to briefly mention the brand new 1975 album.
A brief inquiry into online relationships.
We're going to briefly inquire a brief inquiry.
We are briefly talking about a brief inquiry because we are doing a full video on its own about it.
Yeah. So for this episode of the podcast, I think that we're trying to sum up 2018's music as best as we can.
Yeah. With stuff that's kind of specifically important to us.
Right. But in the future, the new series that we're trying to start is the Extremely Low Budget Review. And when new albums come out on the podcast, we probably won't review them because not enough of us really like all the same music, I don't think.
Yeah.
But if we use our review as a separate platform, we can go in depth on those albums, and then at the end of the year, if we want to go over again like 2019's best albums, we can do that. But rather than every time a new album comes out, devoting a full episode of the podcast to it, I don't think that works. But we can do a full review on it separately.
Because right now we only have 2 of us doing the podcast out of this could be like 4.
Right.
Yeah. So it just seems easier to make a shorter review video about it, and we can do it in a different style or whatever, so we can kind of have more content, So, but as of today, this new album came out
like
2 days ago.
I would put it at like 30 hours ago almost. Like we had 24 hours and then like 11 o'clock p.m. on that other day.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I've listened to it. It's about an hour long. I think it's 54 minutes. I've listened to it back to back multiple times in different ways. The first time we heard it, we were playing games when it like came out right away. So it was kind of like our own little listening party, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I listened to it like in the car, and I think last night I put it on when I fell asleep. but also before that I listened to it and I was looking at the lyrics and stuff because I really wanted to get an idea of the album like all around instead of it coming out and being like, all right, I'm going to listen to this album and write down everything for a review, because, you know, realistically you can't do a review like that quick.
Right.
More specifically music. So, and even Jay-Z has mentioned you can't write a review that fast.
Oh, yeah?
So we wait a day.
Exactly.
But no, I mean, like, in all seriousness, you got to give it a little bit of time. But we don't want to be too late where nobody cares about it anymore. So.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, overall, thoughts for it on me is, like, I'm really happy with the direction they went with it.
Mm-hmm.
And all the singles I was really happy with that they came out with. And they released, like, 4 or 5. I think they released 5, which is crazy. But I mean, like, I was happy with every single one of them, so I was just excited to hear all the other songs. And maybe it's just because the album's so new, but there's songs on the album that weren't singles that are like my favorite.
Yeah.
Like above all the singles, even though the singles are so fantastic.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, if you are not necessarily a fan of any of these artists that we listen to, or like you don't know much about them, we suggest you give them a listen.
Absolutely.
Have an open mind.
Absolutely.
And that's what's most important, is having an open mind to them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some artists that you'll have to listen to, and you'll have to like look up the lyrics to understand some of the stuff, because maybe some of these songs you could relate to through lyrics versus instead of like the tune, and then you'll learn to love the song or the album even more. But yeah, we suggest giving all of these a try.
Yep. For the context of the podcast, I will also mention that the 1975 album got a hefty urination out of me.
Yeah, I agree.
But if you want to hear us talk more about it beyond that, you're going to have to tune in to the extremely low budget review, which should come out just a few days after this, if anything.
Yeah.
And we'll go real in depth on that album.
So you might want to turn on your notifications so you get that.
click the little bell.
Click the little bell icon, and you'll get notifications. Yeah. I don't know if we... Yeah, that's about it for this podcast.
Yep.
I'm glad we can do some more than just movies, which, you know, I love doing movies too, but it's like we want to be able to do other stuff too.
Right.
That way we don't get sick of being like, oh man, another movie, or like, what the hell are we going to do this week?
Next week we're going to branch out and read political headlines, and with no context, take a hard stance one way or another.
A new series. Don't know what it's called yet, but
yeah. No, next week I think we're talking about our favorite unorthodox Christmas movies. So that's a movie related to Christmas that you may not watch every year for Christmas, or you may not even think of it as a Christmas movie.
Yeah. But it's related to Christmas in some way.
In some way.
Like
Mostly that they take place on Christmas.
Yeah. Like everybody thinks of Die Hard.
Attention all
Argue that's
Fortnite
the
gamers.
Christmas.
The ghost of Derek went to bed without recording me the outro, so here I am doing it
that's
for
what we
you
got
instead.
for this week.
And now Ghost Derek
Today's
is going to outro.
question of the podcast is, what was your favorite album from 2018? There were plenty that we didn't mention that I know were pretty big. There was Thank You for Today by Death Cab for Cutie, Kamikaze by Eminem, Scorpion by Drake, and, you know, plenty others. Ariana Grande put one out. You know, I'm sure some other people did. Maybe G-Eazy, I don't know. But what was your favorite of the year? And, you know, go ahead and be Derek and throw in your favorite movie score if you so please. Yeah, click on this side to watch last week's episode of the podcast, where we talked about The Amazing Spider-Man and the PS4 game. Click on this side to watch the playlist of the podcast. And click this little button in the middle to subscribe. It'll help us out. That'll be nice. You'll catch each episode of the podcast new when they come out on Sundays.
Thanks for watching, everyone.